up, you guys? It's Zach here with
Alicia.
and this week we celebrated our 10-year dating anniversary, dataversary. I don't know if that's what you call it, dataversary.
10 years as a couple.
And we've been married for 5, a little bit more than 5 of those years, but yeah, dating for at least 10 of those years. And so as we were kind of reflecting and thinking about just the time that we've spent together, we were thinking, how cool would it be if we provided some resources or just some tips, I guess, for people who may be dating, waiting to date, or just coming out of a relationship.
Yeah, so we just thought 10 tips for 10 years. So let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first one would be, and it seems simple and it seems obvious, but God first, putting God first. And I don't know if you want to, I guess, kind of delve into that. Is it God first in your own life? Is it God first in your relationship? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's God first, period. God before you even start dating. God first in your relationship as a foundation. I think people try to find another person that will complete them when you should be looking for someone that will complement you. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking for God first and you're making that the focus first, then it's like you already have a purpose and a calling and an identity and you know who you are. And then when you find that person and they also put God first, you guys have like the same goals and you're pushing towards the same thing, then you can find someone to grow with.
Yeah. That
complements you instead of just completing you.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think of it from a biblical perspective. Even in the Garden of Eden, it was said that it was Adam and God first before it was Adam and Eve next. So he had that relationship with God, meaning he had that identity that you were saying. He had a purpose. Mm-hmm. He had a calling. He even had a job, naming the animals, right, and tending to the garden. By the time he met Eve, he was ready to leave and cleave, as the Bible says. So I do think that idea of putting God first, I think there's more of an intentional aspect to it, not just like, yeah, like I do my devotions in the morning and like I'm kind of cool with God. It's more so like you are actively, intentionally putting God first in your life in some of those things. And I think that kind of helps it a little bit because especially if it's a relationship where God's like, maybe there's a bunch of red flags and he's trying to help you, you'll be more tuned in to, I guess, pick up on it.
Yeah, I also just think that it helps with your priorities. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are both prioritizing and you guys are both putting God first,
that's a good point.
Then you guys are both going in the same direction. Yeah. And when I think about like the complete versus complement idea, like if I'm telling you, like you have to complete me, like one, that's like a lot of pressure on you because then you have to be like this perfect thing that I've been like missing all along that's gonna like fulfill my soul.
Right.
And then at the same time, that's like so final.
Yeah.
There's like nothing past that. It's like
that's a good
then
point.
What happens?
Then what?
Yeah, like where's the growth? And so if you're like putting God first and you're like a whole person already and you have a relationship with God and you have your purpose and your identity and like you know who you are, then you're not trying to find yourself in somebody else.
Wow.
You know?
That's really good. That's a lot to unpack. It's dense. So many thoughts come to mind. No, I think that's really good. Yeah. I like that idea of, I think there is something scary about trying to make another person complete you because then you do have a list for them of what they're supposed to be. And then what happens when that person's not measuring up to that list and they fail? It's not fair to them because they'll never be good enough, or maybe they'll become something that they were never supposed to be or want to be even. And then you get upset when they're not living up to that standard. And it's not healthy for anybody.
Yeah,
I think.
It's not fair. And then that person becomes like a huge part of who you are. And then how do you like know who you are apart from them anymore,
Yeah. I feel like there's so many routes we could go with that, but we'll stick to the script. And then I think one of the second points is they should be your best friend.
Best friend. Yes.
This is one of the most unromantic, I guess, tips, but this is, I think, one of Alicia's favorite.
I think it can be romantic.
Explain.
I just think that the person that you marry should literally be your best friend. Like your favorite person in the world that you just like enjoy spending time with and hanging out with. Because I do think that people do over romanticize marriage and relationships and think that it's like just like rainbows and butterflies and sparkles all the time. And I think like the person that you marry is the person that you spend the majority of your time with.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of times when probably nothing's going on, or it could be boring or whatever. And so it's like but that's why you need somebody who's your friend,
You trying to
who
say
you can
something?
laugh with, who you can like make memories with, someone who you actually enjoy just like being around.
Someone who you enjoy being bored with.
Well, or maybe you're not bored together because you're such good friends that you have fun. You know what I mean? Like, you can make your own fun. Like, you actually like being with the person
For sure,
when nothing else is going on, and there's not like, you know, it's not like all new and fresh and like romantic expectations and whatever. Like, you actually like the person.
When the infatuation dies down.
I don't know.
So so I think one of the tensions with this one is many people have good friends or maybe even a best friend who might be of the opposite sex. And maybe trying to understand romantic feelings towards that person can be confusing. Like, if you're just really cool with somebody of the opposite sex and you get along with them, does that necessarily mean you should date them?
I think it depends. I do. I think it depends because, like, I think, like, this is not in the same, 10 tips, but I think that, like, love is a choice.
Okay.
I think it's a choice. So if you're best friends with someone and they're best friends with you, like, and you guys choose each other and you want to be in a relationship together, then I think you can make it work.
Yeah.
But
No, I think the point that we're trying to drive home with the whole best friend thing is you should just genuinely enjoy being with this person apart from any, like, I guess, like, huge romantic passion, 24/7 type of feeling towards them. Not that you should settle, for anybody who you don't feel those types of things for, but I think what we're getting at is just a reality check. Like, you just need to genuinely enjoy this person's, like, being.
Yeah, you should be able to have fun together and laugh together and like hanging out with each other and like being together. You know what I mean? It shouldn't all be about, romance or this other person, like, being something to you. It should literally be like, you guys really actually like each other and you like doing things together.
Yeah.
And if nothing else is going on, like, you're happy to still just, like, enjoy each other's company because you legit like that person.
Yeah.
No,
it makes sense. No, and not to, to hammer the point home, but I think what you're really getting to is, like, you're liking the qualities of that individual. I think that feeling of love, those passions can easily fade or change. But when you like these different principles or characteristics of this person or even their character, I think that's more empowering and more exciting because what you're getting is somebody who's, like, genuine, like someone who's actually, like, you love those characteristics about them versus just loving random other thing, physical things.
And it doesn't mean that it's not romantic because if you, like, genuinely are really great friends with that person, you guys have, like, really great chemistry, you enjoy spending time with each other, and then you're intentional about, like, building each other up, then you can have, like, a great, wonderful, romantic, amazing relationship that is all rainbows and butterflies and whatever. But I just think it's so much easier when you're friends with the person.
Well, even as you're sharing, like, I think of Mary and Joseph in their marriage and their relationship where, like, it was kind of an interesting one, but
I just read that today.
oh, God moment. And then what's so cool about that relationship is you don't really get the sense of romance in the story between them two. Like, these two young lovebirds who love each other and they fall in love and they have Jesus. Like, you're not really getting that picture. You actually see a lot of tension and frustration and a lot of confusion with Mary getting, pregnant outside of marriage. But what's beautiful about that story, and I think the reason why God kind of brought them together, is Joseph, he could have divorced her and it was, like, lawful and he could have exposed her, but the Bible says he decided he wanted to put her away quietly. So even as Joseph's trying to be a godly man and process everything that's happening, he goes about doing it in a very godly and not self-serving manner. If he's going to leave her, he's like, I know this sounds really bad, but he's like, if I'm going to leave her, he's like, I'm going to do it to where there's no harm done to her. But instead God appears to him and, Joseph's like, oh, then he cleaves to her even more and he's there for, so I just think of that characteristic like, dude, that is a guy who's taking up the responsibility, marry a young, young mother, and she's now married to a guy who's gonna, be there with her despite what other people might think about her in their community. So I think that's why that friend characteristic, that huge, it's more than just emotionally romantic. It's genuinely like you like a certain You like certain
You
characteristics.
should just like hanging out with
You
them.
just enjoy being with them.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that kind of ties us into our closing point here, which is being of one mindset. Being of one mindset. I don't know if you want to break that down a little bit.
Well, this is one that you put on the list, to be fair. But I think it's like being along the same path, having the same goals, wanting the same things. It doesn't mean that you have to be the same person, because you're not and you won't be, but that you want the same things in life and you're aligned with that.
Right. It doesn't have to be the exact same things, but as far as where your life trajectories are going, you're kind of like going at the same pace, if that makes sense. Like both of you have the same general interests in mind. You're not complete polar opposites. Like you should have some type of, I guess, chemistry or some type of similarity, if that makes sense. I think the Bible describes this as, and I'll probably take it away here, but the Bible kind of describes it as this yoke. It says, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And it's saying, have the same mindset as a believer. Why would you marry yourself to someone who doesn't necessarily believe in the same ways? Now, we can go into a whole host of things there. But what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to get at it from a mindset perspective. Yokes back in the day were used for ox. And if you had one ox that was weaker than the other, then the stronger one would be pulling most of the weight in the relationship, would bear more of the burden, and would suffer more of the toll of what it was pulling, while the younger one, or the one that's a little bit weaker, gets away with everything. So in the Bible, Jesus is trying to give a mandate, like, there's going to be a tension, there's going to be a struggle. So why not team up with somebody who's just as strong with you or is able to pull weight with you, versus you feeling like you're having to always pull the weight along, because maybe where you're going with your goals and your mentality, and the other person is just kind of being strung along, or you being the other person that feels like you're just being strung along and you don't have any responsibility in what's happening. So I think, to me, that's kind of like that one mindset mentality. Make sure, like, in the general direction of where you're going, you have the same goals. So that way, when those burdens and those challenges come with you, you guys are able to shoulder them together because you have someone working with you.
And you can bear them together. I think, didn't my parents say something like that when you asked them to...
Yeah, when I before I proposed to Alicia, I went out, took her parents to a 5-star restaurant called Olive Garden, and one of the things that her dad said about me when I asked his permission if I could marry Alicia was, he said, Zach, one of the things that I'm confident with you is your love for God, because then I know when hard times come and Alicia gets really annoying, I'm just joking, when hard times come and things get challenging, he's like, I know that you'll rest on God. Like, you'll always have God to fall upon, and that'll always keep you going. So I found that super, super reassuring, at least for me. And I guess the way I describe it, because this was my point, so maybe that's why I'm taking it away here. The way I also like to describe it is, I did a half marathon. I've done 2 half marathons. Humble brag. But last year's half marathon is where I really tried to push myself with what I was doing. And there was this moment where I was running. Braxton saying hi here.
Sorry about Braxton.
He just wanted to make a guest appearance. There was this part where I was running with the pacer. We were scheduled to finish the half marathon in a certain time. And long story short, the first year I ran this marathon, I was dying. Like, I was running, I didn't keep a cadence. I was all out of sync, and it was just really like an unenjoyable experience for me. But when I ran with the pacer, I ran someone who was running with the same pace as me, and that helped propel me forward. That helped keep me on track and keep that cadence going. So I wasn't going too fast to burn myself out, or I wasn't going too slow to slow me down. But I was running with someone who was right there with me to help me accomplish that goal. So when we say being of the same mindset, I think that's kind of what we're saying. Like, generally, you are going in the same direction, the same trajectory. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that was the first 3 of our 10 tips for 10 years, or 10 tips of dating.
Yeah.
So,
more to come.
Yeah. So,
thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. If you have any questions or any other topics you would like to, I guess you'd like us to share about or discuss, we'd be happy to talk about more.
and if you want to hear more of Zach's insights, or even more about his running journey, go check out his podcast, PZ Does It.
Yes.
As well as his blog.
Yeah, as well as
Peasy
Empire.
does it at ZacharySurovec.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.